Hello everybody, this is Gareth Cahoon Speaks back here with another video. This is a video that I have no pleasure in doing. In fact, I think it's the biggest crime against humanity that's ever happened to a single nation, except for Israel in the Holocaust. But thank goodness there's a hero that is willing to not be silent at the rape of our women and young girls. No other party was willing to take the Grooming inquiry on. Labour wanted nothing to do with it. The Conservatives did their usual bluster and promised the world but did nothing. Even Reform UK said that they would do their own grooming gang inquiry. But where is it? The only man that has been true to his word on the grooming gang inquiry has been Rupert Lowe of the Restore Britain party. The details in this inquiry will infuriate many. Subjugate others and make the global establishment read it and weep. And as far as the Labour Party is concerned, that has facilitated it all. They look more and more unelectable by the day, and this inquiry proves it. Keir Starmer was more willing to let the boats come in and thousands of illegal migrants from mostly countries that use rape as a form of dominion. And this was stated in Lowe's Grooming Gang report. Here's some of the details for you. The rape gang inquiry organised by Rupert Lowe, its hearings were held in early 2026 and collected testimony from survivors of group-based sexual child exploitation. The full report was subsequently published by the inquiry team, and you can look it up anywhere online and you'll be able to get it. The inquiry's main findings and allegations included survivors' account of prolonged sexual abuse, often beginning with when victims were children, with allegations that some victims were abused by very large numbers of perpetrators over several years. Claims that the police, social services, schools and local authorities frequently fail to act on reports, dismiss victims as unreliable, or treated them as offenders rather than victims. Allegations that some victims were intimidated, threatened, trafficked between locations, and in some cases potentially taken overseas to maintain control over them. These claims were raised in evidence presented to the inquiry and later referenced in parliamentary motions calling for further investigation. The inquiry argued that authorities were sometimes reluctant to investigate aspects of offender ethnicity and community background because of fears of accusations of racism. Similar concerns were also highlighted in the separate audit by Baroness Louise Casey. Recommendations for a wider national investigation, strong criminal prosecutions, better support for victims, and examination of institutional failures. It's important to distinguish between Lowe's independently funded inquiry and the official UK government's independent inquiry into grooming gangs, which established separately. And Rupert Lowe's independent inquiry published a report. The main findings: grooming gangs were a national, not local phenomenon. The report argued that organised child sexual exploitation networks operated across at least 143 local authority areas in the United Kingdom, rather than being limited to a handful of places such as Rochdale or Rotherham. Severe abuse described by survivors. Evidence presented included accounts of repeated rape and gang rape, trafficking of victims between towns and cities, use of drugs, alcohol, violence, intimidation and blackmail, long-term psychological trauma, cases where victims alleged hundreds of assaults over many years. Institutional failures. The inquiry concluded that police, councils, social services, schools and other authorities often failed to protect victims. It alleged offenders' demographics. One of the report's most controversial sections concerned offender ethnicity and religion. The report argued that a disproportionate number of offenders in the gang-based exploitation cases it examined were of Pakistani Muslim background, and that fears of being accused of racism contributed to failure to investigate. The recommendations of the report were for a full national investigation, reopening of historic cases, stronger prosecutions, better victim support, greater transparency regarding offender demographics, accountability for officials who failed to act, relationship up to official inquiries. Many of the themes in Lowe's report, particularly institutional failures and the need to confront uncomfortable evidence, overlap with findings from the official reviews led by Louise Casey and Alexis J. However, Lowe's inquiry makes broader claims about scale and offender demographics that remain disputed and are not yet established findings of the ongoing government inquiry, which is the biggest load of rubbish that you'll ever hear in your life. Rupert Lowe spent months interviewing the rape gang victims. He did the hard toil and heard some things that he said that actually made him nearly wet the bed at night. They were that sick, vile and disgusting. The way they treated these young girls like dogs and like pigs, that was what they named them whenever they were raping them. They used to call them slags, white vermin and other such derogatory terms. The rape of Britain should never have happened, and it's been going on from 1953, and the victims have been silenced, maligned, abused, treated like criminals themselves, flown to other countries where they were abused, trafficked throughout the United Kingdom for sex, raped inside of cigarette shops and confectionery stores, with beds pulled out from underneath the shelves. This rape gang inquiry, if anybody would take the time to read it, would never vote for Labour, the Conservatives, or Reform in their lives again. The only party that will stand up for the British people and our rights and for our women and young girls is Restore Britain and Rupert Lowe. Tonight is the by-election, and it's one of the most important by-elections that has ever been in the United Kingdom, and everybody needs to vote Restore Britain and get all these illegals out.